I'm going to mute everybody. And I'll go live to Facebook. All right. Mark, you can unmute and begin.
Well, thank you. Well, welcome everybody to 2023. And what a year this is going to be. I foresee this as being the best year in the last 3 years anyway, but it doesn't probably take that much, you know, considering all the crap we've been through in the last few years. But it's also the third year of Lit Balm, because as many of you know, we started right in the beginning of the pandemic. In fact, I think probably we were the first show to do this sort of format. Now there are thousands of them out there, and we're just one of the many. But we welcome you, and we're delighted to have this wonderful feature today with the journal Clockwise Cat. And thank you, Alison Ross, for helping to set this up. And today we'll be hearing from Alison, of course, and Marie Lecrivain, Karen Neuberg, Patricia Carragon, Giorgia Pavlidou, Levinson, and John Olson, and we are excited. Before we move to that, though, let me introduce my co-host, Cassandra Atherton, who is an award-winning prose poet, an international expert on prose poetry. Cassandra's prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote Prose Poetry, an introduction, and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. She's also a commissioning editor for Wesley Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. What you got today, Cassandra?
Well, I thought because I had my long trip in Tokyo that I would read something that I wrote when I was there. So this one's called Tokyo Panorama. At 5 a.m., the sky wraps around the bottom of our king-size bed in a thick lavender stripe. Your head is resting on your cheek, fingers fluttering against your eyebrow as light from the Docomo clock tower tints your pillow lilac and lemon. I have grown into my deep silences, into the cramped voicelessness of morning. Time presses on us, but I'm the only one who feels its weight. You turn slowly as I smooth crinkles in the sheets with the balls of my feet. Too early to get up, too late to dream. You fill the space between my arms and thighs, a tight wrapping of skin and bone. Later, we wait for the sound of the trains, imagine their colored racing stripes speeding through the mazes of track beneath us. Just over the tip of my toe, Mount Fuji is a tiny white triangle. And I'm going to introduce for the first time in 2023, Mark Vincennes. So I hope you haven't forgotten the most important part. So join in. Mark Vincennes is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He has published over 30 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently, There Might Be a Moon or a Dog with Gazebo Books in Australia, 39 Wonders and Other Management Issues, A Splash of Cave Paint with Spite and Dival, and The Pearl Diver of Irun Mani with a gorgeous cover. You have to go onto his Facebook site and have a look at that one with White Pine Press, and they're both forthcoming early 2023. Vincennes is also a prolific translator, and he has translated from, you know it, German, Romanian, and French. He has published 11 books of translations, most recently an Audible Blue Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Merz. His own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He is currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. He's lived all over the world. I've missed this bit so much. From Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but he now lives on a farm in rural Western Massachusetts, overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are more short-tailed weasels, cinereous shrews, and hairy-tailed moles than people. I would hate to have a hairy-tailed mole, but maybe other people would like it more than me. Mark, please give us something beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Cassandra. This piece is called Seven Sun Gods. And I'm going to tell you about the seven sun gods before they say their piece. And we have Amaterasu, who is a Japanese sun god and Shinto deity. Arena, the sun god of Arena from Hittite mythology. Apollo, god of oracles, healing, music, and the arts, sunlight, knowledge, and shepherds in Greek and Roman mythology. Freyr, a god in Norse mythology associated with peace, weather, kinship, fertility, and the harvest. Helios, the personification of the sun in ancient Greek mythology. Huitzilopochtli in Aztec mythology and the god of the sun and sacrifice and war. And Tonatiuh, an Aztec sun deity of the daytime sky. And here they say their piece. Amaterasu, the world is intertwined with the unworld. A true apprentice comes but once in an eclipse. The measureless inconsistencies, the choking estuaries, the mind of an unbeing undoes all that has come before. What a glorious river picture. Arena. What is the inference turning? She asked, bending over to pluck a flower. Such a puny recipe. The acts those limbs themselves make. We see it as our machine, the acts like thefts from human logic, the surface of the mind enscrolled, never spoken in good company. Apollo, an illumination, a clear sky or cool breeze. Don't waste your breath collecting conch shells. Know you have all possible foreknowledge of the enigma, the engine of the poetry, in good faith, or the pest that has marked us, the profile of the mountain, that inner surpassed tendency to flight. Freyr, know you have all possible forms, from eagle to bear, from sprouting spruce to monkey puzzle tree, to hold you up. And if, in some strange fashion, the pressure of the eyes, the leisure of the face, the pommel of the sword, all become one thing, hold up the mirror. Helios, the sound of the spider's webs, the creaking of the tiny eyes, even those kept in bottles at the center of the city, where everyone has been trained in the art of life, the unfolding of those minuscule creatures, the buzz and hum at the center of gravity perturbs. And Huitzilopochtli, in the storm, the earth worships the sky. In the flurry, the urge for second life, for an instrumental elemental fire to survive. Turn old kisses to new ones, like sparks of carbon, all genders fetching toward the cornucopian curves of paradise. Tonatiuh, break the spell, unword the world. All this nonsense about an earthly paradise, the world remade in my image and all that, the fire within the eye or the eye within the fire. What is known is never written. Burn it into the great appearance. Walk along, mingle. Thank you. And now I'm chuffed and absolutely delighted to introduce Alison Ross and her Clockwise Cat, a journal Alison began in 2007 as a poem written by her about her precious feline, Quetzal. Shortly thereafter, Clockwise Cat morphed into a webzine, and its very first poetry submission was from the late Felino Soriano, who became the webzine's poet in residence and to whom Clockwise Cat is perpetually dedicated. Clockwise Cat originally started as a progressive literary webzine, but has since evolved into a Zen surrealism webzine machine. The magazine features radical political rants, film, book, and music reviews, cutting-edge visual art, and is packed with poesy that is symbolist, Dadaist, surrealist, beat, or experimental in nature. The latest issue is the Clockwise Cat Meow, which was recently released after a 3-year hiatus of the webzine. Alison is the sole publisher and editor of Clockwise Cat, but counts on Zuri, her proofreader and pairing expert, for assistance. Alison writes sporadic reviews for Pop Matters and recently published poetry in Maintenon 16, a journal of contemporary Dada writing. Welcome, Alison.
Unmute. Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here, and this is wonderful. And I think Lit Balm is amazing, and I wish I could keep up with it, but you all have so many shows, but they're all wonderful, and I do try to watch them if I can't be there live. So thank you again, and I wanted to mention Bob Heeman, a friend of mine, New Yorker dude, who did this lovely collage that also appears inside the magazine. And I always want to mention Bob because he does amazing collages, as you all know. He also does great poetry. So I have the pleasure of introducing the first reader. I don't know if she wants to be first, but I let you know that you're first, Patricia. Oh, okay, you didn't get the email. You didn't get the email. Well, now you know. So let me read Patricia's bio. Just opening it up. All righty. And probably everybody in the world knows Patricia. However, let's read her bio. Patricia Carragon's most recent publications include Arriving at a Shoreline Anthology, Great Weather for Media, 2022, Bear Creek Haiku, Beat Generation Anthology 2022, Clockwise Cat, I Want to Be Loved by You, Poems on Marilyn Monroe, Jerry Jazz Musician, Moonstone Press, Out Loud, an LGBTQA literary arts anthology, Red or Green Books, the Rutherford Red Wheelbarrow Anthology, When Women Speak Poetry Anthology, Volume 1, et al. Her debut novel, Angel Fire, is from Alien Buddha Press. Her books From Poets Wear Prada are Miauku and The Cupcake Chronicles, both highly worthy publications. She hosts Brownstone Poets. Let's give it up for Brownstone Poets, and is the editor-in-chief of its annual anthology. So let's please welcome Patricia Carragon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, going to start off from, I'm going to read Eyes from the latest issue. Now. Eyes take inventories of streets. Some have more cracks than others. Most are dirtier than ever. Eyes visualize Instagram photos, gum, beer bottles, paper, plastic cups, and takeout containers, human or animal excrement, blood, crack vials, and now masks. Eyes see streets as museums, trash bins, belch overloads left by unknown artists. Eyes absorb disgust. Streets say more than we think. Tell us who we are. Eyes 6 feet away, find rainbows in puddles. Eyes wanting to see other eyes. Next one is Dust in the Wind from this issue of the Felino Soriano. Dust in the Wind. The recession double dipped into depression, led to a nervous breakdown. She lost her job, couldn't pay the rent, or buy the meds for herself and her cat. Her 401k dwindled to dust. Her flute played an old Kansas tune. for a windfall inside her cup. Her smile, a broken keyboard. Her cat purred in pain. Today, she disappeared into the earth and sky. By a filthy coat, a passing wind closed her cat's eyes. A homeless man raised his hands, recited from Genesis 3:19. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Thank you. This is The Trapper and the Furrier. 2020, a strange, strange year, like a time bomb waiting for breaking news to strike. Beasts in filthy cages, pellets and food, pets from puppy mills. Children sleep in soiled cages, family separation, asylum still out of reach. Dystopian predictions, dystopian facts. Big business declares war on its workers. Unions, wages, healthcare live at triage. Newspeak from the White House twists failure into praise, fiction into history. Our self-proclaimed leader plays mobster roulette. The press, elections, and laws face execution. He gives carte blanche to an alien dressed as the flu. And the sick keep getting sicker with too many fevers, chills, coughs, and losses of smell and taste. Death toll rising, ghost towns replace cities, bodies overflow morgues, the homeless live underground. Tents and cures not fast enough. Business as usual for corporate generals. 2020, a strange, strange year. People shut indoors, waiting, not knowing what to believe. Their time bombs, not knowing when to explode. The end of the world. In her dreams, her parents' wedding photo burned slowly. Their ashen marriage vaporized in life and death. A grayish puddle formed a stain on the chest of drawers. She woke up and went about her day, listened to an old song, The End of the World. Depression read her tarot cards. A heart bled, pierced by 3 swords. A woman tied and blindfolded, surrounded by 8 swords. A woman wept in bed. 9 swords hung above her wall. Her futility walked in her parents' shoes. The world didn't care if her life was going nowhere. The sun and stars went into hiding. 2 mourning doves stopped singing. Islands of plastic floated in the sea. Bad news kept recycling. The world still on suicide watch. On the news, there was another shooting. Children's hearts bled, pierced by 3 bullets. Justice tried and blindfolded, surrounded by 8 white men. Mothers wept in their beds. 9 AR-15s hung above their walls. Futility walked in American-made shoes. Now some inspiration from Nina Simone. Don't let me be misunderstood. Life has its problems. You claim I'm part of them. Say the wrong words at the wrong time and place. Look around you. Am I responsible for your shortcomings, frustrations, loss, and outrage? You saw yourself in the mirror, broken into 1,000 regrets, needed me to pick up those pieces, carry each one as my responsibility. Don't let me be misunderstood when I say I'm not your lover's keeper. Every rose petal inside this mattress is making room for 1,000 thorns. I'm only human, and the bed I've made is now yours. 2 more. Solitude. Solitude plays film noir. Her haute couture wears despair like satin pumps. She is Marlene Dietrich. Elegant black feathers cast a veil across her face. She walks beside me, extends in sunlight, moves inward at night. She is like me, can't survive without your support. She sits beside me, explains that not all firestorms are alike, that dark rainbows come in various shades of lies and abuse. Billie Holiday sings a silent prayer for your return. The room's stillness collides with the one within. A storm brews between the past and present. Solitude argues with night, and the gap between logic and absurdity makes this room smaller than it is. Just want to take a water break. My last, I figured this is apropos for the new year, Deja Vu. It happens every New Year's Eve. It's always at the same restaurant. 20 Cinderellas sit at a table set for two. Their thoughts move like minutes, anxious for love to strike before midnight. Plates and wine glasses occupy their tables. Knives, forks, and spoons wrapped in napkins wait for action. On each plate, a box of Happy New Year condoms. In each vase, a single red rose keep the women company. The scene is the same each year except for fashion, aging, and newcomers. Only a few will toast a new year with a mate. I'm one of those 20 women. Our faces are lined with screwed up stories. I sit before my rose observing the quiet desperation. My smile conceals my anxiety. I take out my compact and lubricate my lips. I see the same desperation on my face. The rose is in Prozac withdrawal. My watch reads 11:35 p.m. Two of the newcomer women are leaving. The 20-something smiles radiate. Their Prince Charmings did arrive before midnight, but how long will their lip gloss, condoms, and euphoria last? My rose is in striptease mode. It will be January 1st in a few minutes. No one has entered the restaurant since those two women left. I decide to leave. As I rise, the tablecloth slides. The plate, wineglass, and vase crash. The knife, fork, and spoon scatter. The condom, box, and napkin bathe in wine. My rose lies naked on the floor. I exit the restaurant. At the sports bar next door, the ball drops on a flat screen TV. I head for the subway and crowd in with the drunks. Leaning against the door, I zone out the noise. My thoughts tell me not to return, but that was last year's resolution and the years before. Thank you, Alison, and thank you, Mark, and thank you, Cassandra.
I'm just kind of blown away. You know, I love your poetry, but when you read it, it just even sparkles more. So thank you so much. That was kind of, you know, overwhelming. I think, Mark, are you introducing the next person?
I am.
Okay.
We next hear from Marie Lecrivain, who is a poet, publisher, an ordained priestess in the Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, the ecclesiastical arm of Ordo Templari Orientis. She currently curates two literary blogs, Dashboard Horus, a bird's eye view of the universe, travel-themed poetry and art, and Alchemia Poetica, a woman's art and literary journal. Her work has been published in California Quarterly, Chiron Review, Gargoyle, Non-Binary Review, Orbis, Pyrenees Fountain, and many other journals. She's the author of several books of poetry and fiction, an editor of Ashes to Ashes to Stardust, a David Bowie tribute anthology forthcoming from Sybartic Press. Welcome, Marie.
FYI, it's Sybartic Press, and my last name is Lecrivain, but thank you.
But you know, we did meet once many years ago. Do you remember?
No, I don't, and I regret that I don't. So sorry. I want to thank Alison for publishing Clockwise Cat. You give a voice to poets who definitely can see the world and all the beautiful absurdity that Dada and surrealism offer. The anthology that Mark mentioned, Ashes to Stardust, is actually going to be released tomorrow on Amazon in honor of David Bowie's birthday. And it's a great anthology. It's got all kinds of wonderful work from different contributors, including, I think I saw in the audience, Cherry Garcia. So if you love Bowie, you love poetry, you can order it and it'll be available tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and read or start with the poem that I had published in the latest issue of Clockwise Cat. I've been working on a series of kind of funny, sarcastic poems based off the most popular Tarot deck, the Rider-Waite deck. I'm using them as ekphrastic prompts, and this one's is in there. It's called The Hierophant. Everything will never be all roses and laurels, and your banishments and blandishments no longer carry any weight or credibility. What is there left to learn after a lifetime of being frozen like a fly in amber at the head of Western decline? You say to treat women better, but to breed children instead of nurturing pets. You're now considered the king of incels, your gray matter called into question as you try to pontificate on things that no longer matter. You've missed this lesson again and again. And that one's in Clockwise Cat. Sometime this century, I have a collection of poetry I've been working on for the last 5 years. It's called Dame of the West. And the West is considered where all things end up going after, well, mythically speaking, after we die. So this is, a lot of poems are in this book are based off of things that I've left behind and will not be going back to. And this is the title poem called Dame of the West. My sabbatical continues. Sundays are mine again. No longer astride the summit of the earth, my spine aligns itself to the profane path of age and gravity. I won't lie. It's difficult to live adjacent to ecstasy, to ignore the love that flowed between us. The door is ajar. It would be easy to slip through and find my way back, but at the expense of my soul, it's too great a cost. And this is the other one, and actually the only one that I really like out of this whole series. It's called Dame of the West DIY Plans. This morning you gave me everything but the final ingredient for success. When I asked you why, you confess you've never actually used this recipe. You've never been able to acquire the last component. You mumble a tearful apology and scurry back to the kitchen, your shoulders collapsed in defeat. I then went to visit my neighbor, a former soldier turned welder of broken hearts, to ask his help in mending the link between the soul and intellect. He refused and stated no such connection exists, even as he held the jagged ends of the chain in both hands. Annoyed, I walk home and kick imaginary cans along the way. Failure weighs heavy on my back like a stubborn child who won't let the piggyback right end. I know in my heart the only one that can help me is me. Though it will involve binge watching a lot of how-to videos, bribing a few daemons, and leaving my phone turned off so as not to get distracted by my best friend, self-sabotage. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think I've met Marie also, and she's a highly interesting person. So, you know, her poetry just leaps right out of her personality, I feel like. I hope to meet you again, Marie. That was a few years ago now. That was pre-pandemic even. Okay, so I believe, let's see, the next person is Heller Levinson. A cool name for a cool guy. Very down to earth and yet mysterious at the same time. And I've had the pleasure so far of meeting all three, you know, Patricia, Marie, Heller, and then we'll move on and I'll tell you, you know, who I haven't met. Let me read Heller's bio. He he agonized over this. All righty, Heller Levinson is the originator of hinge theory. His most recent books are Dialogics, Anvil Tongue Press 2022, Lure, and Just Saying, or Just Saying. I don't know how to say it, Heller. I read that recently and I loved it. And I've read a lot of his books, but not all of them. Black Widow Press 2022. His Query, Caboodle, and Shift Gristle are scheduled for a spring 2023 release, also Black Widow Press. He lives in the Hudson Valley, New York. He is allergic to bios, hence why he agonized. Take it away, Helen.
Okay, thank you, Al. You can hear me? Okay, thank you, Allison and Mark. It's to be here. From Clockwise Cat, I'm going to start with In the Precinct of Lunk. And what Hinge has been doing over the last few years has been trying to liberate the term, what I call the linguistically undocumented, and set it free, magnify it with musculature. So in a sense, getting the DNA of the term. So let's go, we'll go for it. In the Precinct of Lunk, obdure, abjure, clunk, oblong. Cultivate incivilities, confetti, promiscuous. Odds are it happens when you aren't looking. Mean, calculus, gruel, flung, spur-tide, claustrophobic cowboy. Back in what saddle? Saddle? What back? Where to? Hi-yo, silver. Zombie-infested device-driven zeitgeist. Show me your nightmare. Carry on glut garrulous algorithm. Can you coin an anthem? Pluck a lyre. And the walls came tumbling, came tumble. Sod, travail, ash, dung, born, brummaging, cast, pernicious, steeped, toxic, heed. Coastal Lemuries, slosh. Next poem, I've been doing some studies on Matisse, and that work will be in the upcoming Shift Gristle. And this particular piece is going to be published now. And it basically hinges to Matisse's late period in the 50s when he was doing murals for the Vence Cathedral and the Hotel Regina. And so we'll go with it. Swimmingly Matisse swim tambourine tusk lop, les bêtes de la mer, dance torque, truffle, Turk eiderdown, knee jam, loft rag, posterior reverie, cleat hop, lip whistle, float, rhapsodic, leap, narcotic, itty itty bop, funky, funky. Furl, fling, fly lightly, step sprightly, sing gaily, laugh daily, pomp, persuade, shimmer, sling, power flag, tuck, dive, thrive, connive, Benny Carter, squatty, roo, boogie through, catch a tiger by the tail, flail, derail. I should have mentioned Benny Carter's a saxophone player, and Scotty Roo is a tune he famously plays. It was written by Johnny Hodges. Next piece is called Valvular Ash. Valve is in valve. Valvular Ash. Wind-studded thought wren wrestles archaic. Flips the lurch drive, sudden, sodden of foot, of trough. And we'll finish with this last piece. It's called Astray, and it's in the Lurk book. And Astray is part of a constellation of terms I'm particularly interested in because for me, they're the resistance, they're the hygienic pulsations, withstanding the corruption of the hygienic, the causal tyranny, the everything that's being degraded, the digital suffocations, etc. So to me, seepage, a couple terms in here: askew, askant, truancy, wayward, wander, trespass. So that's kind of why I'm interested in these beautiful rebels. Astray, way, wayward, depart, deposition, quotidian dilapidation, in the flummox addle, snafu shamazo, discombobulate kerfuffle of a bewildered geometry, askew, askant, Carillon honk, a call, and evoke, articles of faith numerically scrambled, culled for salubrity, sieved for maximum seepage, for perfervid truancies, preferential dodge, preternatural wander, foaming toward futurity, the vastly hilarious goblet dithyramb. Thank you all.
Oh, I've missed you, Heller.
Likewise.
Yeah.
So drink from that goblet of syllables, I think, yeah. Thank you, Heller.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mark.
Next, we hear from Karen Neuberg, who is the author of the full-length poetry collection Pursuit from Kelce Press, and 3 chapbooks, including The Elephants Are Asking from Glass Lyre. Her poems have appeared in several anthologies: I Want to Be Loved by You, poems on Marilyn Monroe, and Great Weather for Media's 2020 anthology Escape Wheel, as well as various other literary journals, including Big City Lit, Maintenance 16, Nix's Mate, and Verse Davy. Karen holds an MFA from the New School and is an associate editor of the online poetry journal First Literary Review East, and lives in Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Alison, thank you so much for Clockwise Cat and for putting this together and putting all of us together. This is a great reading. I'm so happy to be part of it. And Cassandra and Mark, thank you for Lit Balm and doing it all the time. I'll start with one of the 2 pieces that I have in Clockwise Cat. It's called Recalibration. Surface brio, landscapes of change. What was ocean? What was land? What was? What might have been remembered is not. Winking stars, hybrid flotsam, the jetsam of abstruse, unimagined evolving, as time continues, consumes itself passing. In some realm, perhaps, the oldest gods wait to be reborn. And I'll read a few newer poems. This is called Into the Sealed Chamber. The mind rummages with the splayed fingers of a child seeking a coin lost in summer grass, seeking the look of glitter, the feel of substance, not a stone rich with its own history, but a bartering piece or a cudgel to scrape surface, go deeper into the sealed chamber, adorned with any remaining wishes and the songs yet to be sung. Go now, enter, breathe. Let your eyes be like fingers touching. Let your ears select the sounds you need to do the work only you can do. For a time, I was very interested in erasures of any kind of text, poetry or otherwise. And I was a little uncomfortable erasing other people's words. So I decided to erase my own words, and I erased my entire chapbook. And I'm holding this up because Bob Heeman, this is a collage that Bob did for the chapbook. So thank you, Bob, again. Anyway, this particular, I did 2 erasures of my chapbook, and this one I went forward and then I went backwards. So there'll be a point where hopefully you'll pick up the repetition of some of the sounds, of some of the words. It's called Stretched Around. I remember myself opening to receive another time, waving at the threshold, quick to understand waiting might be a glimpse. Calmness settled me until my head filled the ever-changing, amazing, lovely next. I opened my pail, waded through density with ease, shine, and chrome. I could carry my voice stretched around flame, stretched around my daily, aflame with shine and chrome. I opened my pail to attach stars until my head filled with searching to find moon fragments quivering upon water, answers ever changing. I love the girl I used to be, wild, rummaging to understand, meaning, determination in my arms, holding all reflected. I remember myself. How I arrived here. When still young, I left the safe home of myself and adventured into a waiting, twisting thread of freedom and misinformation. The original speck of entry opened, became my new home, where I found I wasn't a total stranger to myself. I still carried my barriers, my fences, walls, doors, battlements, weaponry, armor, shields. At first, they transported easily as a cloud of feathers, but over time they turned to stone, to ice. What else to do but carve and chip and make the most of sun and rain? And this is called invention. An old story has acquired many overcoats, some plush beyond the threadbare of others. Line them along the tripwire row of years. Make yourself yearn. See how they change places, how they change how you think about your past. See how they twist and cling to each other as though afraid to wake you from their dream. Notice when it is you choose to wear a particular coat and which one you always keep directly against your skin and never remove. And this last poem that I'm reading is the other poem that's in Clockwise Cat. I look up. Floating on water's skin while tumbling in the underneath, amid undulating shadows and all of time's weary repetitions. I look up and call out, sky, sky, trying to re-stir its immensity into awe once owned, while our impossible world stutters across a length of blue I long to cradle between my hands. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that is just too much. Thank you so much, Karen. She's a lovely person and a lovely poet. I can testify to that. Okay, moving along. I think, am I next, Mark? Yes. I think. Am I muted? No. Okay. Next is John Olson. And so now we get to the final 2 readers for Clockwise Cat, whom I have not met and hope to meet. If I ever get to Seattle, which I think is where John lives, right, John?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll have to go back there one day. And anyway, so I was stunned when I read half of Dream of the Weave King, or yeah, Weave of the Dream King, sorry, I was like, just like, what? Like, that's the kind of poetry I want to write. And by the way, I published Clockwise Cat because these are all poets that I want to write like. So just be aware of that. But when I read, and I did not get through all of Weave of the Dream King, if I'm saying that right, because it is huge. But I read half, and I'll read the other half at some point, but I have a lot of other things to read, John, but I love it. Anyway, John Olson is the author of numerous books of poetry and prose poetry, including Echo Regime, Free Stream Velocity, Backscatter, New and Selected Poems, Larynx Galaxy, Dada Budapest, Weave of the Dream King. He was the recipient of the Strangers 2004 Literature Genius Award, which I have seen, I have read The Stranger. Not the, I know the book, it's the publication, the magazine. In 2012 was one of 8 finalists for the Washington State Arts Innovator Award. He has published 4 novels, including Souls of Wind, shortlisted for the Believer Book Award, 2008, The Nothing That Is, The Seeing Machine, In Advance of The Broken Justy and Mingled Yarn, and Autofiction. You Know There's Something, a recently completed novel, is forthcoming from Grand Iota Press in England. So I can't even imagine reading fiction by John Olson at this point. His poetry just blows me away. So thank you so much, John, and we're looking forward to hearing you.
Well, thank you, Alison. That was quite an introduction. I'm going to have to try to live up to that now. Thank you for organizing this and for bringing this collection of voices together. This is a very stimulating afternoon for us here. So I'd like, and thank you, Mark, for hosting this too. You've got a fantastic voice, just really nice, deep, resonant kind of voice, a manly voice. So I'm going to begin with a poem from Clockwise Cats called Those Nebulas at the End of Your Nose. I'm galvanized by medication. The red pills in particular take me up, up and away, eyes dilating like black holes. Going there is a duty. I've got a dictionary of dreams to guide me. My wealth is in my books. I'm a grebe in Moby Dick. Whenever I feel like singing, I squeeze a vowel while my mouth floats around my face. I stay there dripping and begin to happen to myself at the tip of my tongue. Part of my screeching is deepened by feeling fixed and pink. And by writing a letter, I find hydrothermal vents bubbling deep below the tumult of the sea that is me. We all contain oceans. You can hear it in our voices, a dizzying vastness, the fragility of our singleness empowered by a medium so huge it reclaims us in our sleep. I'm always a bit awkward in a nightclub. I go there by imitating a glowworm and use bits of plastic for my feathers. A little kaolin comes in handy, and granite. The hum of a rain-soaked ensemble has a radio in it, and subsidy, and indecision. I've got a pocket full of plays and do what the bones do in a backflip, which is decipher a spoon. I've already been treading water. I've got a grant for ice cream and a touch of testimony in my beer. I feel its meaning as it flows into my willpower one morning as I keep pounding the piano. I'm pierced by incision, the sting of regret, and a correlative fervor for leaning against the wall. I wear a Mesozoic belt teeming with cycads and bromeliads that goes in a slantwise motion around my waist. Words garnish your existence, and it feels like proliferation glowing inside your body and a map of Senegal on a bath towel. I could use a shovel. It's winter, and my grasp of bandwidth is shaky at best, like an orange license plate on the back of a fractious idea. It's easier to paint than to repress an emotion. The throat is my balcony, and my arm is a marvel of chords. My broom sweeps the floor like any other broom, but I like to drink sunlight at the firing range. I hear the shots echo at a mirror fire. My hair punches the air around my head. I'm roasting an infrared metaphor. I will hem this topic with snakes and an emotion focused on hunger and thirst. I've got a compass of Yukon gold. I expect to dazzle the crowd. My hat is a product of folklore. I like riding trains and potatoes in their hymn of skin. My heart beats like a lid on a thyroid. I will bristle at the mention of stigmas, then bend and pick one up. One sphere is blue and another is orange. I see a green areola orbit a pink nipple, and it makes me glad to pass into a parallel universe. The thickness of thought is gorgeous in a jar of face cream. It is here that I pause to discover all these insects were little words with little legs, and the ones with wings will carry you across the frontier, those nebulas at the end of your nose. So that's that. And if anybody out there is experiencing nebulas at the end of your nose, it's okay. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a bloody nose that you probably might want to worry about. And this piece is called Existence Gets Me Wet, and it is from my book, Weave of the Dream King. Yes, for those of you who like to weave. Sometimes I see a prose poem and ask myself why anyone would want to write such a thing. There's so many words, it's exhausting. But really, all one has to do is think of Wyoming and then compare it to a submarine. The poem will crawl across a sheet of paper and reach the border before sunrise. Sometimes you can think you're fooling the language, but the language is urging you to keep your mouth shut. The poem will drag you out of yourself, and you hear the cry of a nipple. Nipples are simple. They express tenderness. Do that. Express tenderness and Montgomery glands, muscle contractions, areola, the stride of emperors, the fireflies of queens. Nothing feels quite so good as clean sheets right out of the dryer, or the first hot shower after having a cast on your leg removed. It will become a reverie. Iowa is larger than you can imagine. Illusion is its sad consolation prize. So is squeezing and dirt. I've developed a taste for Barbizon cows, rancorous idealism, and planetarium popcorn. The road flare complements the landscape. Whatever you do in life, experience penmanship. Find a trombone and hop into a dream. Enjoy breakfast. Life is all noise and bondage and the poetry of Frank O'Hara. The meaning of life crawls around in spices. It expects words to grow it into food. And why not? The shapes expect description. This is where art murders reality. Meanwhile, the mirrors enhance our elbows. Is life truly this unjust or just fascinating? Everywhere I look, I find drugged snakes and Cezanne. I slouch forward, spelling adjectives on a twinkling uvula. I will expand it into alligators. Shoes are important. The brain opens, revealing Madrid. And finally, in the bistro, we discover that life is alchemical. This isn't a big surprise, but it chose us to make the diagnosis. What divides the organic from the inorganic? Is it a mysterious vital force? Is it a chemical process? Is it Philadelphia? Lately, I've been incubating resentments like a physician's assistant. I do this by implication, which is also a miracle. Nothing soothes anxiety like food or a tincture of indica. That works pretty good too. Opium breaks Chicago in half. Do you ever have feelings so powerful you can't share them with anyone? I think it's okay to climb into yourself and pepper your heart with the debris of heartache. Can I be personal for a moment? If existence is wet, existence gets me wet. If existence is existential, existence makes me existential. But what happened exactly in 1967? The world got weird and weirder, and then it got cooked in tasty morsels of narrative. The world is largely imaginary. Our past undresses on our emotions, or is it the other way around? What worries me is losing an entire planet. What kind of species destroys an entire planet? If existence is a synonym for being there, I'm here, trying to solve life with a lubricant and a film projector. The act of painting holds the disease of elaboration. Sometimes it's really objective. I take notes, inspissate in goop, separate from reality. Time doesn't matter anymore. Beauty pants for a woman. My character creaks into view. I become a pterodactyl and circle the sky higher and higher on rising currents of hot air. Here is where painting becomes a little beard of foliage. The dishwasher contributes a little intelligence to the sexual detergents of struggle, and the painting hangs there, sobbing revolt. And that's it. So thank you again for having me.
Crazy.
Thank you for listening to my weave, my warp, my woof, my
Whoop and wolf.
He's an emotional roller coaster as far as I'm concerned when you read him and hear him. He's just,
I'm an emotional roller coaster in real life every day.
I'm sure.
I'm a walking carnival.
Zero doubt.
I'm a walking sideshow.
Right. A circus freak, maybe?
Yeah, definitely, categorically.
Thank you, John. And next we hear from Giorgia Pavlidou, who's an American writer and painter, intermittently living in Greece and the US. She earned an MA in Urdu literature from Lucknow University in India and an MFA from Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK. Her work recently appeared or is forthcoming in Caesura, Maintenant Dada, Poetry del Sol, Clockwise Cat, Octibio Review, Philosophical Egg, Entropy, and Moon and Sun magazine. Additionally, Trainwreck Press launched her chapbook Inside the Black Hornet's Mind Tunnel in 2021, and Anvil Tongue Books, her full-length book of poems and paintings, Haunted by the Living, Fed by the Dead, in May 2022. She is currently featured femme of the Clockwise Cat, Meow. Welcome, Giorgia.
Wow! That was a mouthful. Thank you, Alison, Mark, Cassandra. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So first poem appeared in Clockwise Cat. It's titled A Room Not of My Own. Dedicated to Alejandra Pizarnik. May your body always be a beloved space for revelations. Alejandra Pizarnik. Here goes. Something cracks. Something moves through and in and out of the brick walls of my body. It drills into my orifices. It sizzles my body parts. My eyelids shake, shake, shake. It crunches its way lispingly through the air. Lisp, lisp, lisp lands onto my stomach. There it transforms into a whisper. Whispers creep into my ear like little insect fish. Little insect fish float and vibrate all around me. Some speak and repeat their names. They gradually morph into thicker words. Fat words swim through the hallways of my body. Seconds before they slip into one of the other rooms of this house, they explode into trillions of tiny sentences. Like little snakes, the sentences squirm and weasel themselves into different rooms. This room is not of my own. Here, all sorts of words swim. Some devour and stuff themselves daily with shrieking sounds. The loudest fish of all stands paralyzed in front of my face. It stares at me with round and astonished blue eyes. From its obese mouth, an anorectic fish crawls. It giggles, giggles, giggles. It giggles, giggles, giggles. The anorectic fish births thousands of tiny baby crabs. Their claws duck into my back. The crabs maniacally reach up my spine and barge into my head. Second, I want to read a part of a manuscript I'm working on and at the moment titled Female Body Retold. It's a sort of answer or reaction to a movie made by Matt Welsh, What is a Woman? And this is the second part of the manuscript. It's titled The Journey to Washington, D.C. And it features a Zuni native character, transgender character from the mid-19th century who was invited to meet with an anthropologist in DC. So the journey to Washington, DC. Encroached by seas of infertility, with tides annunciating post-mortem comings, your two-folded Zuni current sparkled through drabness, 2 in 1, third yet 0, yes and no, condensed into neither and both, speaking red landscapes resisting the ambush of new speech, the great anti-castrators of the unimaginable. Fiber artist, weaver, potter, hailed as a Zuni princess in DC, called the most intelligent person of the Pueblo. You spun baffling phonologies. You planted confusion in Matilda Stevenson's binary mind, trampling on alien thought by tiptoeing on foreign syntax, pulverizing imported sacred rationalities by circular breathing. Like Sophia, you united the already joined, separated and never disjointed. You never were optical illusion. Your being simply exposed accusatory mirages. What is a woman? What's a pygmy? Gaining entrance into personhood is never gratis. Tolls are always levied with unequal calliope. And thus the delegation left New Mexico, crossed an ancient land deemed brand new, baptized after an exogenous cartographer, voyaging to the capital of a foreign country declared and settled on your ancestral land. This, Wewa, constituted your triangular experiments, and Sophia whispers to become binary. You first must become at least 3. Swallow my medicine and cut yourself in half. Your division will keep you united. Referred as he, later as she, and Stevenson eventually settled on she. Eat that, Matt Welsh. Eat her hide, eat her bones, eat her genitals. And Sophia, lonely as a fish, even in New American Light, even in Rochelle Owens' present, even in Mina Loy's ever-exceeding circles of pain, guiding, banned, barely human flocks, pauper creatura femina, Zola's collector of vision, osteopath of language, you traverse drab mises of invisibility, as lonely as Hildegard, as lonely as the poet, as lonely as those who speak borrowed tongues, as lonely as those who refuse to accept instant contours of the barely imaginable. Matt Welsh must eat a Githian. cycladic cyborg whirls from the edge of embodiment over Jordan Peterson's galloping into reverse silicone impossibilities, tricking the plastic petals of the unsayable, and bewildering lights tickle into polar delights, and bewildering nights seep into red whirling endless nights. These are the nocturnal destinies of the glacial. These are the synthetic annunciations of the one true body, painting up Sophia's thoughts. Listen to the dripping sound of water. This is a waterless world. Drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drop. And next, the downpour of eternity. Infinity condensed into 11 vowels. Third is also here, the double, 2-in-1 person. Witness the birth of the individual. Sophia choose on an individual until the blue-throated one stated, enter here. The black hornets, mind tunnel. And as for Rakshashi or Apsara, fluttering inside celestial black insects, and as for Mahakali, her name milked from the same word as time and black, she disguises herself as the tiny but daily inevitable death. What is it that she's taking with her? Vibrating black kleptoparasite. You know best, because it is you who's the undertaker of the mind. The light of your language liberates. Cremate my brain if you must, you osteopath of spirit. Manipulate my meandering mind if you will, and I'll eat bursts of your carnivorous syntax. And because I'm reflecting on your electromagnetic sting as charged with the voltage of manic West medicine, I consider your telekinetic pharmacon a form of extraterrestrial mutation, harvested from multiple dimensions. It is poisonous as well as therapeutic, both dead and alive, male and female at once. It is your dharma I'm talking about, the law of right action sizzling beyond the noontide of the dead. Remember, there are fictive realities tucked deep inside the real of your illusions. These pulverize intrusive thoughts. And as you shown with Artaud and Van Gogh, you excel in transforming schizophrenia into the arts of life. Beloved insects, your tentacles control psychosis, as if swarms of spectral phantoms faint like a poem without a center when you watch them in the eye. Your exobiology defies drabness. Your vibrations are fluid, never obvious or sullen, liquid. The light of your language is relentless. You are fire dressed in fire. Around the magnetism of your fangs, the depressed before recovery first lose their minds. In your presence, suicidal thoughts obliterate, calcinate, decompose, or turn into rubber. Try sensing the invisible traversing of the human nerve domain. And here is your black exoskeleton, written with the blinding brightness of your language. Being lava, clothed in lava, you fight fire with fire. Let me fight psychosis with psychosis. At very last, we've arrived at the final act. In this instant, with your help, Kali's inorganic biology is birthing a myriad of minds. And in exchange for your homeopathic spores, she promises to protect you forever. Once you're inside her, inside the black hornet's mind tunnel, Rakshashi's guarantees you'll be as safe as infinity sculpted inside the mummy, safe as if forever embalmed into the memory of a caterpillar or silken cocoon, safe as long as eternity and the millisecond. Apsara's promise.
Thank you, Giorgia. That was stunning, to say the least. Alison, some final words on the show. You got to unmute, I'm afraid.
I know. I was so blown away that I got like frazzled on my computer. So she's amazing. There's nothing more to say, really. I think it's like mic drop. The whole thing, you all are amazing. I know there's still open mic, right, Mark?
Yes.
Who really wants to follow any of that? But thank you so much. I'm so humbled and intimidated by all of the poets that read today and that I've published in Clockwise Cat. Honestly, I just admire everybody so very much. As you said, Giorgia is the featured femme of Clockwise Cat, and we do try to focus as much as possible on female writers. Obviously, we do publish male writers and have no problem with any gender, but we just really like to give voice, and Giorgia just kind of blows me away. And by the way, her everybody in this reading has blown me away. But she's, a special presence in my view. Those paintings behind her are hers, by the way, in case you didn't figure that out. And so anyway, I hope everybody checks out the latest issue. We're off of hiatus, more or less. We probably won't publish as much as we used to, because it's just a lot of work. But I hope everybody checks out the latest issue. It's called the Clockwise Cat Re-Meow. You go to clockwisecat.com. You can read it online for free. You can order a print copy that I don't profit from. I make zero money from Clockwise Cat, and I spend money on Clockwise Cat. So anyway, thank you so much. This was amazing. Mark is the one who reached out to me about this, and I had wanted to do like a Clockwise Cat type thing. So it's interesting that he had proposed that. And I would like to do something like this again. I know Lit Balm has an ongoing series, but I'm thinking of doing like my own channel or something like that. But anyway, thank you so much, Mark and Cassandra. And is Jonathan not here today? Jonathan Pinton?
No, he's not, I'm afraid. I think he has something, family stuff that he has to deal with. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, thank you all so much. This was blow you away amazing.
Well, thank you, Alison, for curating this wonderful show, which of course included Marie, Karen, Patricia, Giorgia, Hella, and John. It was absolutely amazing. And now I'm going to hand the mic over to Cassandra, where we can hear some of our open micers.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was so lively and brilliant. What a fantastic reading. It makes me obviously want to get online and get some Clockwise Cats in my life. Thank you, Alison. Thank you so much. But we do have the greatest and most stellar lineup to follow. And we're going to kick off with John, because you have to kick off 2023 with John Wesseck in open mic. I think that's the only way to define what's going to come for us in the new year, John.
I am here. Do you enjoy fine dining but worry about what it will do to your weight? Then come to Clark's Mixed Martial Arts Buffet, where you can work off that 16-ounce prime rib in a life or death struggle against a trained mixed martial arts fighter. Start out with our all-you-can-eat soup and salad bar. You'll need that energy when you go 3 rounds against Rick Mad Dog Slaughter to win a chance to advance to entrees. At Clark's MMA Buffet, we feature ham, chicken, turkey, our famous prime rib, and a realistic venue to test your martial skill. At Clark's MMA Buffet, you can experience joint locks, eye gouges, and finger jabs to the throat, all while working up an appetite for our delicious side dishes. And if you win 3 matches in a row, we don't give you some silly trophy, we give you cheesecake. At Clark's MMA Buffet, paramedics are standing by, so you don't have to miss dinner by going to the emergency room. We're open from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. That's Clark's MMA Buffet, where a bone fracture means your meal is free. And this piece appeared in issue 36 of Clockwise Cat back in February of 2017.
Well, they have incredible taste, obviously. And I mean, I need to work off my cacio pepe pasta from last night. So Clark sounds like a place I might need to hang out at. That was wonderful. Thank you for kicking off open mic. Next, we have DeWitt, who redefines prolific with his 2023 output. Novel, maybe a movie from the novel, poetry books. There's his daughter's shadow boxes. It's all happening in DeWitt's world in 2023. And I think we're just passengers, DeWitt. So what have you got for us today?
Beware of gossip, none of it. This is sort of a pre-Valentine poem, but it's also, I think, kindred in spirit to someone that I've been enjoying tonight. It's called Heart. And incidentally, heart is a word I think we should all avoid. I think we'd be better writers if we did. The human heart, we say, meaning not only blood pumper, distinct from that of other species, but also seat of emotions, conscience, compassion, courage, appetite, tenacity, devotion. She or he has heart. For he was great of heart. Her heart was as big as the whole outdoors. Don't lose heart. Heart-stopping news. Heart in your mouth. Heart sick. Faint heart. In the heart of the country. Heartfelt. Sincere. Cheating heart. False heart. Heartless. My heart is turned to stone. I strike it and it hurts my hand. Hard heart. Soft. Bleeding heart. Heart of the matter. War. She had my heart and I had hers. Cold-hearted. Downhearted. Seed of soul. First organ to develop in the fetus. Meaning too much. Can heart mean anything at all? I turned into a heart, and my desires like fell and cruel hounds e'er since pursue me. Your heart's desire, heart of gold. You and you are heart and heart. I heart New York, heart rate, blood pressure, heart broken. Take my heart in your hand. I pledge allegiance hand over heart, vowing on life itself. Give me your heart after my own heart. Heartstrings, wear my heart on my sleeve for dogs to peck at. Heart throb, heartache, heart to heart. On me, hearties. Learning by heart, heart versus head. Eat your heart out. Stolen heart, heart unfortified, half or full-hearted, left in twain, hearts and bellies, face without a heart, vampires staked.
Oh, I loved it. You're all heart, DeWitt. What a blood pumper of a poem. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I wanted it to go on though for longer. I loved it. Next up, we have Linda, who is a bionic woman now, I believe, from our earlier conversations.
I hope so. I hope it does me good. Okay, this is like a 3-part ode. I mean, it's not that long. And I don't know, it's probably not surreal, it's probably not Dada, but it's something, beat poetry maybe. So the first dedication is to Twiggy. Oh, Leslie Hornby, we loved your name. AKA Twiggy gave you attention and fame. I bought a 3-ring binder for school and stared at your visage every day. 3 layers of your false eyelashes painted to perfection. Those twigs you drew above your cheekbone, below your eyes, was the iconic look that made up your face. Your Brit tongue and boyish hair drove us wild. You were the envy of every girl, child. Some said androgynous, yet I tend to disagree. Your slight figure became the rage. As I now know, your fame left you saner than sane. So much for modeling, you also act and sing. Your recent songs are Love, Love. The album Romantically Yours is my plug. And the second one is about Frank. Orchestral compositions in your guitar. Over 60 albums to kiss. All we can do now is adore. Frank Zappa, you are missed. All those crazy verses and rhymes to savor. Your attitude would never waver. Frank, you know all the tunes. Too bad you left us so soon. And the last dedications to Andy, show me your groove. Andy, it's pop art you paint so indelibly cool. Campbell's tomato soup and Coca-Cola was your iconic claim to fame. Your paint splashes electrified Marilyn, Elizabeth, Mick Jagger, John Wayne. And that color burst for Mao Zedong, how could it be wrong? Andy, the factory made your legend grow. Andy, Studio 54 was all gaga over you. Andy, so glad you survived that miserable bullet Valerie shot at you. Andy, some think you exploded commercialism because that looked good for you. I like to think you criticized materiality and celebrity as the 1960s embraced you. You're like a rainbow, so much hue. Oh, Andy, I wished you painted anything for me. Even one splash of love will do. Thank you.
Linda, that was awesome. Thank you. I think there's room for more stanzas though. I want more people. I think that's got some
I know. I got to dig some more celebrities up.
100%. Loved it.
Thanks.
So you are up next. I can't wait to see what you've got for us. Earth to Joe. Is Joe there?
Oh,
Yeah,
did you say?
Joe.
Oh, hi. Oh, thanks.
Hey, you're up.
I wanted to read today because it's such a pleasure to read with Heller and Giorgia and my master of the prose poem, John Olson. So I wanted to read a few sections of a prose poem I've been writing called 15ers, and that's because every section has 15 lines. And each section also mentions Tucker Carlson. I try to make it a habit to catch at least a few minutes of the white supremacist power hour, also known as Tucker Carlson Tonight, every day, although sometimes I mercifully forget. One clue that that's an accurate name is that Carlson spends a lot of time denying that he is, in fact, a white supremacist. Fellow white people, do you do that? Speaking of Carlson, I was thinking about the Inquisition and burnings at the stake, as one does, and realized I hadn't ever considered the particular symbolism of those events. They weren't, as one might imagine, previews of hellfire, although Thomas Aquinas, a fan of this mode of punishment, said that simple people might think so, nor were they demonized images of the cross and crucifixion. Rather, writes the medieval historian Jennifer Dean, they were annihilations of any reminders of heresy. Preventions of relic collection and devotion, denials of ritually proper burial, and the cauterization and sterilization of society's disease or wound, a metaphor still used today to justify political execution. The heretic should be cut off like a piece of dead flesh, expelled from the fold like a sheep with scabies, wrote Aquinas, lest the entire flock burn and rot. I decided to celebrate 420 by ingesting some dark chocolate truffles. I followed the science and expected them to take effect in about 2 hours. I'd been reading Carl Hyacint's latest novel with pleasure. It's completely outrageous, implicating Trump and the First Lady, along with Hyacint's usual cast of South Florida pimps, murderers, and slimeballs. The story involves a young illegal immigrant from Honduras who's confident that he'll be freed from jail the next morning to resume work on his asylum application. In a place like South Florida, writes Hyacint, such heartbound faith in the justice system could best be described as quaint. Lots of talk about justice on cable news today as the George Floyd verdict comes in. Earlier this morning, I read an online piece arguing that this was just a show trial designed to prove to everyone that the system worked, that nothing would actually change. I'll check Tucker later to find out. Elsewhere in the novel, Mike Pence delivered the eulogy at a funeral and then talked about the dark menace lurking on the edge of America's borders. Mourners chased down Sean Hannity to have their prayer cards autographed before he boarded a Fox helicopter back to Manhattan. Thanks.
Wonderful. What a wonderful satire wrapped up as a dark chocolate truffle. I loved it. And all prose poems are always welcome here. I'm obsessed with prose poems. I'm interested in 15ers. Is it 15 sentences each or 15 lines each?
15 lines. Yeah.
So you have to have a very good typesetter to make sure it didn't roll over into the next line. Awesome. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Next, we have the brilliant Alison, who's going to read for us. And I'm so glad she is, because I was hoping she'd read earlier. And now she's going to sneak into our open mic in a glorious way. Alison.
All righty. So we do one poem, correct?
Well, I think you could do two because you're so important and you curated the whole show. I don't think anyone's going to kick you off or get like the cane with the hook out. And
Okay. Well, I'm asking because the second poem will be, anyway, I'll tell you, but the first poem, the first poem is a prose poem. And
yeah.
We're all into prose, and from Montana, which I've been published in twice now, and it's very exciting. And so I wanted to read that because I like this poem. It's pretty silly, but also makes a point, I think. So let me read this one from Montana. It's called, and I've not read it out loud before, so it's called The Bubble Bath at the End of the World. Okay. In the bubble bath at the end of the world, I fill the tub with boiling hot water in preparation for hell. In the apocalyptic ablution, I cleanse myself of all transgressions, using only the highest quality organic soaps and paraben-free foam bath powder. That way, just in case I'm accidentally accepted into heaven's overflow lobby, the record will show that I cared, however superficially, about planet Earth, and that I lived cleanly sans sin. In the douche of doom, I read the poems of Emily Dickinson. She could not stop for death, but I kindly stopped for her verse before death rudely stopped for me. In El Último Baño de Espuma, I watched the world go down the drain. Mr. Bubbles' goofy grin morphs into a wicked cackle, echoing across the checkered tiles in the bathroom of the universe. Alrighty, and so the second poem is the poem that launched 1,000 issues, or 40. I think I've done like 41 by now of Clockwise Cat. And this was about my dearly departed cat, Quetzal. Her full name was Quetzalcoatl, after the feathered serpent of Aztec mythology. And she was 20 when she died last year. She was amazing. And I don't think I have a picture of her around. It's in my other room. But anyway, a beautiful cat, a very feisty, just very unusual, kind of just a dark mood cat, as juxtaposed to my current cat, who's just crazy. Okay. So it's called The Clockwise Cat. And so I wrote it about her. And then I was like, I could actually, title a webzine Clockwise Cat. So anyway, the Clockwise Cat is wise to clocks. She knows their motive, to tame the savage animal of time. The Clockwise Cat hisses at the clock cages. Her fangs gnaw the numbers, and her claws rip holes in the frayed fabric of space. The Clockwise Cat moves in counterclockwise cadences across the hardwood floors of infinity. She stalks illusions of impermanence, which flit like shadows across the paint-chipped walls in her mind. The Clockwise Cat tells time with her eyes. They blaze like candle flames in the dim closets of oblivion. The Clockwise Cat sleeps 16 days an hour. She dreams about the minutes she will devour like bugs. She awakens to seconds, poisoned like rats. And that was published in a Cerebral Catalyst ages and ages ago.
Thank you so much. So getting the title poem for the journal is pretty special. So we got to hear it exactly from your lips, which is wonderful. And the bubble bath at the end of the world is the greatest title. I think my husband would like that because he thinks I stay in the bath way too long and it probably will be the end of the world until I get out.
I love
So
bubble
thank
baths.
you.
I love
Yeah.
it.
How good are they? They're so
That,
good.
that
You
poem
have to-
is basically my life. So
you have to keep turning the hot water on and letting some of the cold water out though, if you stay long enough, and keep your hands out so you don't get little wrinkly fingertips. But awesome. Thank you. Next, we have our badass poet. This is it. Don't tell her any secrets because she might keep it under her derby hat or keep it under her gray beret or any number of things that happen in this fantastic book that I'm going to plug relentlessly, Cindy, because it's so good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So let's hear something badass from our favorite, one of our favorite Brooklyn poets, or I'll get in trouble with Bob, right, if I say favorite Brooklyn poet.
Thank you, Cassandra. Normally, I would read something from the book. However, it makes more sense for me to read the first poem that ever appeared in Clockwise Cat. It was in, believe it or not, 2010. I didn't know Alison. I submitted 2 prose poems. A few days later, I got a little note from Alison that said, yeah, I think we could use these. So I'm going to put it in the chat box so you could all kind of see the issue and read along with me. And you've probably heard me read the poem before. It's about my very long marriage. It's called A Partial View of a 6-Month Marriage. It was 6 months. Tongues and thresholds. The lovesick groom carries the homesick bride to the smell of Cajun spice, the sound of Caribbean drums. South Florida in October. There's a lizard in the kitchen and dust in my coffee. The fireplace forecasts our future. Paper, ash, disaster. The heartbroken dog hangs his heavy velvet head. A fat waitress counsels us over hotcakes and deliberations. The plaster is peeling. You bring me pills and platitudes, spit at my kissless face. Love marks itself absent while lust pleads the fifth. Someone strikes a match and we lay like 2 dull sticks in the hiss and glow of another spiteful night. Next morning, we talk over strangled eggs and bacon. El Nino wets the bed, predicts more storm. And believe it or not, I'm very good friends with my ex. He hates this poem for obvious reasons. Thank you, Alison, for giving it a beautiful home.
I was going to say, you still talk to him every day. So maybe La Nina has made things better since El Nino left the bed. Thank you, Cindy. You are awesome. We love having you read. Things are not the same if you don't read. It's so important. And we're going to segue into my other favorite Brooklyn poet, Bob, in his kitchen. We've missed his kitchen. We've missed where the dish rag is. We've missed if the window open. We've missed what t-shirt he might be wearing. But he's here. So, and your computer as well. So things are looking up for 2023, Bob.
Good. Okay, this is an information piece that was written in late October. Information. It was the sound made by the dead before they awoke. It was the taste of the sun before it sank into the sea. It was the touch of words upon your flesh. It was the smell of counting. It was the way death looked.
Wow. Okay, that's a big one for me to carry through for the rest of my day. I'm thinking about breakfast, but now I'm thinking about my mortality. But that's the best way to end open mic, was with Bob giving me something to take with me through the day, and a contemporary information piece. I loved it. Thank you. Mark, you've got to talk about our weekend of love.
I do. Well, I thank you all again for this amazing show, Clockwise Cat, Alison Ross, and all your readers, and for the fantastic open mic. But the next Lit Balm show will be something unique. It is called the Lit Balm Weekend of Love. And it will be February 11 and 12. And several interesting readers will be reading their love poems or their anti-love poems, as it be. But we hope you'll join us, because there'll be lots of open mics and all sorts of carnival activities going on as well. Yeah, do join us for that. In the meantime, I think I'm going to close with something a little more calm from my own time in Iceland. It's called An Uneasy Icelandic Grit. Perhaps the sleepless dreamer will hear her own voice this Reykjavik summer, the octaves quavering over their own timbre, deep from within the middle earth. With those eyes, her own fanciful features marking measures in the darkness, that some enchanted creature might one night in the Ordadahaun, in those ancient cities of ash and wind, climb those walls of ice, a weathered wonder, with only a basket of seaweed and lichen to bless the gods of frost and snow. And of course, right now we have lots of snow over where I am anyway.
Boiling here.
Well, you're on the opposite end. The toilet works in the wrong way,
Yeah, well, talking about clockwise and anti-clockwise.
Exactly. So anti-clockwise cat might be something. The next.
We can do down under.
My next poem.
Thanks so much, guys. It was a wonderful show. Sending lots of rays of love and poetry and sunshine out there. Yeah.
Yeah, we missed you all. I'm so glad we're all back, and I can't wait to have our love in a month.
Exactly. So if any of you desire to be erotic or love poets in the upcoming feature in February, drop us a bell. We'll be happy to have you read your sexiest poems, read your anti-sexy poems. We'd love to see you. Anyway, thanks, guys, for a wonderful night. Take care.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
See everyone.